And look at this. I and I have natural roles in this earthly plane. Men cannot bear children, and children are viewed as a blessing from the Most High, never a burden. So being a child bearer isn't something subjective. It's a privilege to be the chosen vessel of Jah's light. A wise Rasta woman. And when we look at Baha'u'llah, he proclaimed the equality of men and women, asserting that in this day the hand of divine grace has removed all distinction. The servants of God and his handmaidens are regarded on the same plane. If we do choose, and I don't think that in the context of Guyana, religion is as overtly used to really violate the rights of women. But when we read the news and we watch BBC or Fox News or whatever network that you prefer to use, or even the radio, there are countries and contexts where it is used. So one of the most important things that we have to decide if we want to make a difference, that is regardless of the dogma, sexual and domestic violence constitutes a sin. If you want to go the religious way. And this is where we link the United Nations 1993 Declaration and the dogmas that we sometimes find in the scriptures or the sayings of the wise men that we just spoke about. So, our cultures, regardless of your background, and our cultures even beyond Guyana, must take this violence seriously. Violence against women is unacceptable. It is consistent with the portrayal of God, who stands with the vulnerable and powerless and speaks judgment against those who choose to use their power in ways that harm others. This has to be the mantra. And to end on this issue on religion, religious leaders are very, very powerful. They meet with the congregations, and they are usually wise men and wise women. They have to use their position as community leaders to help shape the discussion of issues concerning violence against women. They have access to a congregation where, in the context of religious teachings, they can educate and advocate for ending violence against women. They can even go beyond the pulpit, the church, the temples. They can write letters. They can speak in public. They can speak outrage. Here we are. We mentioned the word inclusion. Part of inclusion is engaging. We have made one big mistake in this inclusion. Actually, two mistakes. Alex mentioned the first one. Very, very obviously. Men engagement recently has very much to do with the fact that women have limited access to certain facilities. We see it, Priya, in parent-to-child transmission of HIV, where male engagement is to give women a much better chance of having a child who's HIV negative. So Alex, you're right. We are going through the woman's agenda to take care of our males. Mistake number one. Number two, what about the equity issues for males themselves? I'm not even mentioning the issue of equity in parenting. And the minister, who will be speaking later this afternoon as a call for action, and I had a very, very heated discussion about parenting and the role of mothers and the upbringing of boys versus girls. And the product that we have is a man that we despise, and we have all these horrible words for him. So equity is not just in making sure that women have access, and by men's action, women have less access. Of course, equal pay for women, representation in politics, and equal domestic work and homework is very, very important. In some societies, Paternal leave, when a woman gets a child, a mother has a child, the father is given equal amount of time as a father, paternal leave. So if we do not take care of these more important economic and social contextual factors, we will always have this schism. And now we're treading on very dangerous ground. And we had a little bit of a feeling of this in our preparatory meetings. The masculinities agenda. The moment that we pit the masculinities agenda against the woman's agenda, we are in trouble. And this meeting, and Alex's presentation, and this one is the big caution. We are not going to replace the woman's agenda by the male agenda. We are lifting the male agenda where it belongs, addressing males. It's the masculinities agenda. Giving men a place and a space where their issues can be addressed. We have to be careful. We have to be very careful, though, that we don't overdo it. And again, Doris alluded to this yesterday. Because once we start victimizing men at the hands of women, the women have won their debate. You guys are taking over. You guys are justifying what is happening. Never in a power relationship will a woman have the same power as a man, just because of the physical strength. So never victimize men. That's the other extreme. If we do that, we will be going in two parallel roads. There is a major power difference between men and women, and this will be so 24 generations from now. So what we talk about, and what we have to talk about, is similar experiences of indignity. True, there are similar indignities, not just women. We have the issue that we have to recognize the real differences in power and privilege. Men are more privileged than women. That's the way it is. It's not the way it should be, but that's the way it is. So do not gloss over the fact that there is gender-based violence. But this is not what this meeting is all about. It's called gender violence. Men are not the new victims. The discussion we would like to have, the next couple of minutes, facilitated by Alex, is on gender justice. There will never be gender equity. There will never be gender equality. There are differences. How do we achieve gender justice? When we have this frame of reference of our history, of our wise men and women, of our religious contexts, of what we see around us, when we know there's a prison or a filter, how do we get to gender justice?